If you've been scrolling through endless listings, watching video after video of pool robots, and still can't decide which cleaner actually lives up to the hype, you're not alone. The market is flooded with gadgets that promise sparkling water, but most of them either miss spots or require you to babysit them all weekend. That's why I spent a good chunk of my weekend actually setting up a few different models, watching them navigate the water, and then asking myself which one really just works. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk about the 2026 upgrade WYBOT C2 Vision AI Camera Pool Vacuum. At first glance it feels like a step up from the usual robotic cleaners because it's got a tiny camera mounted on the front, paired with a supposedly AI-driven navigation system. The idea is simple. The robot sees where it's going, learns the shape of your pool, and then plots the most efficient path to keep the floor and walls clean. In real-world terms that translates to less time spent pulling the plug, emptying the filter basket, and more time actually enjoying a pool that looks like it's been professionally serviced. Who should buy this? If you own an Inground pool that's used regularly, whether you host weekend BBQs, have kids who love a quick splash after school, or just want crystal clear water without the chore, this is worth a look. It's especially appealing to busy homeowners who don't want to spend an hour each week fiddling with a hose and a manual vacuum. On the flip side, if you have a shallow spa, a small above-ground pool, or you're only going to use it a few times a year, the cost and the learning curve probably aren't justified. The first thing I noticed after plugging the WYBOT C2 into the power source is the way it starts moving. The robot isn't just lumbering forward, its camera actually tracks the liner and adjusts its speed. In low-light conditions, say, just after sunset when the pool lights are on, the AI still manages to maintain a decent line of sight, though it does rely on a small amount of ambient lighting. If you plan on running the cleaner at night, you'll want to make sure your pool's perimeter lighting is on, because the camera's low-light performance, while respectable, isn't night vision level. That's a practical point that many reviewers forget. The robot isn't a blindfolded vacuum, it needs some light to see. The cleaning modes are where the 8-in-1 claim starts to matter. There's a dedicated wall scrub mode that really shines when you have algae on the pool's sides. I tested it on a pool that had a thin film of algae after a rainy week, and the robot's wall brush, combined with the AI-guided path, cleared the surface in about 30 minutes without me having to intervene. For floor cleaning, the deep suction mode works well on fine debris like sand or tiny leaves that usually float around after a windy day. The dual filtration system, which consists of a primary cartridge and a finer mesh secondary filter, did a solid job of catching both large particles and the finer silt that often makes water look cloudy. You'll still need to empty the filter once a week if you use the pool heavily, but you won't be scraping the bottom with a net after each session. A practical weakness shows up when the pool has a lot of ladder steps or unusually shaped corners. The robot's camera learns the pool's layout over several cycles, but if you have a complex geometry, you'll notice a few missed spots the first few times. The AI does improve, though by the third or fourth cleaning, the robot has mapped the edges more accurately. That learning curve is fine for most homeowners, but if you expect an immediate perfect clean right out of the box, you might be disappointed. Battery life is another point worth mentioning. The C2 boasts a 120-minute run time on a full charge, which is plenty for an average-sized backyard pool, around 15,000 gallons. I ran it through a full cleaning cycle that took roughly 90 minutes, and there was still a comfortable 30-minute buffer left. The charger is a simple wall plug, and the robot automatically docks when the battery gets low, a feature that saves you from having to manually pull the unit out of the water. However, if you have a particularly large pool, say, a 30,000-gallon Infinity Edge, you'll either need to run the robot twice or accept that some areas won't get the full suction power before the battery runs out. Now let's discuss the price and the value proposition. With a price tag that sits in the mid to high range for robotic cleaners, the WYBOT C2 isn't cheap, but what you're paying for is the AI-driven navigation and the dual filtration system. In my testing, those features actually saved me time and effort compared to a more basic robot that just roams aimlessly. If you weigh the cost against the convenience of a cleaner that spots algae on walls,